Hey, Weekly Pulse on all things green and gold. We call it Weekly Wilde on a Wednesday this week. Jason Wilde, three-time Wisconsin Sportswriter of the Year, Alex Strouf, hanging out with you from downtown Milwaukee ahead of Packers Dolphins, the nightcap for the Thanksgiving games tomorrow. Happy Thanksgiving, Jason, first off. And second off, can you make sure if the Packers win, Jordan Love gets his damn turkey leg unlike last year?
Yeah, I will. I will see what I can do on that front. Different networks, so different opportunity for him to get fed, to eat, if you will. Are you in jail?
No, I am just I've been moved to a different studio than I typically am.
No
For whatever
logos. That it looks very Spartan. I mean, is the toilet just to your left?
Yeah, so is the bed, right to my right here. Yeah, for whatever reason, Wednesday mornings more busy down here for our production
Sure.
rooms Thursdays. So I got excommunicated to production room 4. I'm typically in production room 2 for the
Oh,
record.
okay. All
So,
right. I appreciate
just
it. I thought you were either in jail or in the bathroom.
no,
Uh,
but I've told you before, if I ever do go to jail, you are one of few phone numbers I have memorized. So you will be getting a phone call more than likely.
I will come and bail you out as long as the number is not very large and the bail bondsman is conveniently located.
Okay.
I look, I don't, there's been a lot of Thanksgiving games during my career. I don't remember the Packers ever winning one and the player of the game not getting the turducken or the turkey or whatever they were giving away, depending on the TV network. So Dallas, Detroit, Green Bay, they didn't have to worry about giving a Packer a turkey leg the last time they played on Thanksgiving in Green Bay because the Packers lost to the Bears in 2015. So we'll see if Jordan Love can earn himself a thigh or a drumstick tomorrow night.
Yeah, that's just a memory that stuck out to me from last year. But as we reflect on last year, that was the turning point of the Packers season, right? Like we really thought we saw the turning point in that loss in Pittsburgh, but the holy crap moment for everybody was Thanksgiving morning in Detroit. Packers go in and punch them in the mouth and say, "Hey, we've arrived," and ultimately that led to then the following week knocking off the eventual Super Bowl champ, Kansas City Chiefs. So big opportunity tomorrow, right? Dolphins are hot, 3 games straight for them, with Tua
Yep.
Tagovailoa returning to their quarterback spot after an early season concussion. The Packers are winners of a couple in a row as well. And last week, obviously, a very complete win for them. So the stage is set, or I should say, the table is set for.
Oh,
Yeah, thank you
you're
for
right.
for quite a matchup between Mike McDaniel and Matt LaFleur tomorrow night. I imagine you're pretty excited. This is an exciting one.
That's very well said. Look, there's a couple of things that you covered there in that lengthy soliloquy that sounded like one of my questions. Um, Going back to last year, you're 1,000% right. Like it was great that they did what they did in Pittsburgh, but then the following week, if my memory serves me, they beat the Chargers at Lambeau,
You're right.
and it was largely because the Chargers couldn't catch. That certainly helped the Packers' cause that day. And so you were kind of like, okay, they're starting to turn the corner. And then right out of the chute, the deep ball to Christian Watson. And you're like, okay, this is the not blanket around crew. To quote The Town, which is an underrated film, by the way. Did you ever see The Town?
What do
No?
you, I'm not a big movie guy, so no.
Hmm. I thought you liked movies. Never mind then. It's Ben Affleck.
Okay.
No, John Hamm. No, okay.
I'm familiar.
Uh,
I'm familiar with
they
them. I'm
they
I'm not familiar with the movie.
they rob Fenway Park. It's actually a pretty good like caper flick. Anyway,
I'll add it
uh,
to the list of movies I won't watch.
exactly. Anyway, this is the no blanking around crew because they went in there and they took care of business. And I actually asked LaFleur. I said, look, obviously with what you did last year, uh, is there any carryover in terms of things that you did last year that you want to do here? And he didn't have a great answer on that. I mean, he clearly does not. While he enjoys certain challenges, he clearly does not like Thursday games. Like and not only that, he's annoyed already about playing Thursday. Like
Really?
because it's going to be kind of a wonky week now after this, right? And so, I what I do think is interesting is that we always say, well, both teams have to face the same challenges, right? And it's true to some degree, but only one team is sleeping in its own bed and driving 15 minutes to Lambeau as opposed to flying up from South Florida and experiencing what could be a 60-degree temperature swing. So this is a good Dolphins team. When Tua has played, they have been good. They've won 3 in a row. He threw for 317 and 4 touchdowns. Jalen Waddle, who has been quiet for a lot of the season, in part because they were without Tua for 4 games, came alive last week. I would be nervous about Tyreek Hill, especially without Jair Alexander. So this is not a warm weather team, bitterly cold Thanksgiving, short week, Packers win type of a deal. I do think they win. I do think they go in to Detroit with a 3-game winning streak of momentum, but I'm not telling anybody to bet based on my predictions, put it that way.
Yeah, I mean it's always a wacky one when it's only at a couple days rest. Now, you said something that piqued my interest there, and you said Florida's not thrilled about the Thursday to Thursday because it's a wonky week, but that's a full week of preparation, and then obviously after that you don't play again until that following Sunday night. So you go Thursday on a short week against Miami, full week of prep at Detroit next Thursday, and then you have what is that, 9 days or 10 days until you go to Seattle for Sunday Night Football. So you almost, I don't want to call it a mini bye, but you get a longer break after next week and a normal break for next week. So that seems like a built-in advantage almost to me. So I was surprised to hear he's
Yeah,
not.
I mean, first of all, it's not an advantage, right? Because the Lions have the same schedule, just like they did in 2017 or 2007, where they played the Lions on Thanksgiving and then played in Dallas the following Thursday.
Yeah.
And obviously, Dallas had played on Thanksgiving and then played the following Thursday. That was, of course, the Aaron Rodgers game where he makes his, for all intents and purposes,
Debut. Yeah.
introduces himself to the nation. But I think what LaFleur's point is that with the short week, your next week is not a normal week. It is we just got the crap kicked out of us 2 times in 4 days physically, even
Sure.
if you win both games. So they're not going to have a regular Wednesday, probably not going to have a regular Thursday practice. They definitely won't go pads. So I think what he's not saying is, hey, this is going to be a real big freaking game against the Lions. We want to win this division still. I would like to play it on Sunday. And even if they have the advantage of also having that quote unquote mini bye, which is what they call it, you're totally right. That's how they view it. I think he'd rather have it going into Detroit. Now,
Sure.
does he also get it going into Seattle? Of course he does. And winning in Seattle is not easy. Even if Seattle's not that good of a team, they're leading their division right now. So this is a really interesting 4-game Pella window of the 49ers, Thanksgiving against the Dolphins, on the road against the Lions, and then on the road in Seattle. This is an interesting. We're going to find out a lot about this team, and obviously, the first game of that gauntlet went pretty darn well on Sunday.
38-10, the final on Sunday at Lambeau Field as the Packers top the San Francisco 49ers. LaFleur now 3-4 in his career against the Niners, 3-1 in the regular season, 0-3 in the postseason. You roll your eyes because the big part of that is the losses have come when it's mattered most. The wins have come in the regular. Regardless of that stat, regardless of the score, regardless of how banged up the 49ers were, the win was really impressive. Anytime you beat an NFL team by 28 points, that's an impressive win. And the way in which the Packers did it, physical football, Josh Jacobs running the football down the Niners' throats. I think he's the first 100-yard rusher in 55 regular season games against the 49ers, which is a fascinating stat.
You know who the running back was that got 100 yards against them in the playoffs?
Did Jones do it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's
Aaron
right.
Jones last year. And
before
before those two, the last guy that had done it, former Badger Jonathan Taylor, on October 21st, 2021.
Wow. That's a long time without a 100-yard rusher.
Indeed, it is. Yeah.
So anyway, to my point,
Fun to grow on.
the way the Packers won, impressive, and it seems like they've almost unlocked maybe, I don't want to say, but a new way to win offensively. Have Jacobs carry the ball 20, 25 times.
Yeah.
Love only needs to throw it. And now this is 2 weeks in a row where I think it was 17 and was it 26 last week? He's not throwing the ball a whole heck of a lot.
23, I think. Yeah, look, there's a couple things there too. You're full of stuff today. I mean, you're bringing a lot. Not all of it good, but most of it. First of all, let's go back to the way they won. Sure. Because I think the final score is misleading, frankly.
Why?
It's 17-7 late in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
And if Christian Watson catches that touchdown pass, then I'm with you that it's a blowout, right? But they don't get the touchdown, right? So it's 17-7 at the half. 49ers are getting the ball, okay? So they're thinking, hey, boom, we dodge a bullet. We're going the other way. We're going to make it 17-14, and now we got ourselves a ball game. Now, credit to the Packers. They get the fourth down stop. I think that's the McKinney deflection of the throw to Kittle that ends that drive there, right? So now it's 17-7. But if you look at the statistics for the third quarter, the Packers were dominated in the third quarter, like dominated. And yet they still end up going out of that quarter with a bigger lead than they entered it. So I think that's a kind of a misleading portion of the game. And then obviously they get the 3 turnovers and then it kind of gets out of hand after that. But the reason I bring this up is not to downgrade the quality of the win. It is as a bit of a warning of, and look, fans can feel however they want. I'm not here to tell them how to feel about that game. But I am here to tell you that take a deep breath before you think that your nemesis has been vanquished like Superman and Lex Luthor, okay? Because, look, and I understand I may be a little chicken little-y here, but right now the Packers are the 6th seed. Now they have an opportunity to change that. They win in Detroit. They win in Minnesota. They could still win the division. I'm not ruling that possibility out by any stretch. But it's tough. It's going to be tough. It's that, the Lions have some tough games too, including a 49ers team that will be at home against them and probably have most of their good players back. But if this form holds, the number 3 seed is going to be the NFC West champion. And if that's the 49ers, your opening playoff game is Packers at 49ers, 6 versus 3. And if they have Nick Bosa and they have Brock Purdy and they have, George Kittle at 100%, because George Kittle was pretty damn good the other night. That is a tough matchup. And I'm not saying they can't win, but I don't think, my only point about Sunday is I don't think they conclusively proved that they are a better team than the 49ers. I think they are a better team than the 49ers, but any given Sunday in a playoff game, Tausch is convinced, and he's hedged a little bit. Now he had the Packers as the second best team in the conference. I think he's acknowledged he probably undersold the Eagles. He does not think he's underselling the Vikings, but the bottom line is this ain't over yet. Now, to what they have to do this, to your point about discovering a different version of their offense, now on that, you are 1,000% right. And I actually read the quote from Josh Myers yesterday on our show because I didn't have the audio handy. But he basically said, I don't think we went into the game planning to run the ball like that. And that basically what Josh Jacobs did on the opening drive, which was a 12-play, 67-yard touchdown drive, Josh Jacobs accounted for 39 of those yards, all rushing. And so I think what Josh Myers' point was about Josh Jacobs was, I think he kind of told Matt LaFleur with how he played, hey, let's do this. And suddenly by the end of the game, you've rushed it 42 times and you've thrown it 23. And so I think LaFleur would like to be 50-50, but if they can do that, he is more than happy to just hand it off to Josh Jacobs. And I do think you calling it a discovery even though it's kind of a no blank blank type of a deal, it is a discovery.
Yeah, so I agree with the no blank blank part of that. But I mean that's why you go out and get a guy like Josh Jacobs,
No
especially
doubt.
this time of year, right? In November, December, January, you utilize him this way, and this is what he's great at. And he has been so important to this offense. Is again, I don't want to use the word identity necessarily, but I feel like it's appropriate here. So vital to this offense's identity and Matt LaFleur's creativity offensively. So it led to a big win, no matter how you splice it. And I guess to go back to the Niners win, why I was so impressed in the final score and the way in which they won is because their history against backup quarterbacks isn't very good, Jason, right? Like I brought up Jake Luton on our pregame show, the former Jaguars quarterback who diced them up a few years ago. Different coordinator, but still, right? Like, and there's a laundry list of backup quarterbacks that have performed well. Jaron Hall is not one of them, who the Packers played last New Year's Eve, but there's been a few of them. So Brandon Allen did scare me a little bit, but ultimately a 38-10 win is nothing to sneeze at.
And let's be honest, I was completely wrong about the game on Green Bay game day. I had that same reservation about saying, look, and first of all, let's not forget one of the reasons why they didn't get diced up by a backup quarterback was that they shut down Christian McCaffrey. Like if they would have been more balanced, and McCaffrey, I think he was 11 carries, 31 yards. And then the biggest play that he has is the 23-yard catch and run, which ends in a Keyshawn Nixon fumble forced. If they don't shut down Christian McCaffrey, then Brandon Allen has much more opportunity to play action and be productive, and it could be a different game. So give Jeff Hafley and the Packers defense, especially the defensive front, some credit because they played really, really well against the run, and that set the table for them shutting down the backup quarterback.
I'm going to throw you a very vague question because I've asked you this a few times this year, and now we are 11 games in. Packers are 8-3, so they're winning football games. But I'm still struggling with how I answer this question. So this is why I'm asking it to you, because you're smarter than me. What do you make of Jeff Hafley? What do you make of Jeff Hafley's defense through 11 weeks?
Yeah, look, and it's funny because you know who's going to be in the building tomorrow? Joe Barry.
That's right, linebacker, and what is his title?
Run game coordinator. Yeah, for the Miami Dolphins.
That's ironic. Okay.
Yeah, I like Jeff Hafley a lot. I even kind of got after him yesterday because we had our I wouldn't say it was tense by any means, but he was joking, but not really joking about how negative all of our questions had been. And then, they were really, really good against the 49ers, right? And so I said, as much as I enjoyed our back and forth last week, what did you think of what you guys were able to do? I know they were missing some pieces, but that was a pretty darn good defensive performance. And I think he realized that last week he kind of looked a little whiny and he tried to play it off as a joke, but there was some truth to it, right? He did think that, hey, we won the football game. But my point to him is something that Tausch taught me many years ago, which is when you win and don't play well, coaches are in heaven because they can coach your ass hard and they don't have to worry about hurting your feelings too much because you're not downtrodden already because you lost the game. Like a lot of times, if you lose, coaches have to kind of pick their battles because you don't want to dig a deeper hole for your players who just lost a game where they played poorly, and then you make them feel worse about it. Sometimes you got to build them up. You don't have to do that after you won. We won, but we shouldn't have. And here we got to get our blank together. So, and he actually brought me saying that up back to me yesterday. And I'm a believer. I think this system is a really good system. Now, I don't understand, and maybe this is a conversation for the offseason with him. I don't understand why their defensive line is not playing better. I don't understand this argument. And obviously, we got into it with Jared Bush a little bit on Green Bay game day, which was really fun, too, where, three knuckleheads are trying to tell a former NFL player how to play defense in the NFL. But, he was a defensive back. This is different. The guys up front, all of them, to a man, were talking about how excited they were about this scheme. and about jetting up the field and not having to hold blocks and handle two separate gaps and read and react. And they haven't delivered. Like, that was one of the things that was interesting about Sunday was that Lucas Van Ness finally made a play. He had two quarterback pressures going into the game. Two after 10 games, right? Rashawn Gary gets credited with a sack. Rashawn Gary had been largely a non-factor. So maybe it's starting to come together for them, but I still don't understand why it's been I just think it's an excuse to say that it's the system and they're adjusting to the system. And, I love Kenny Clark. And as I said to him last week, look, man, you know how much respect I have for you, but the numbers are the numbers. What's going on? And he was great about that. And I'll use it, hopefully if he plays another good game, the story becomes he was trying to figure things out, and now it looks like he did. But the bottom line is I think this defense is good. They're 11th in total defense. They're 10th in scoring defense, and that includes the two pick sixes that Love threw. So they're actually even better off than that in terms of scoring defense. So I think that they have made a change for the better. And while the defensive front has not been great, I think on balance, it is significantly an improvement over Joe Barry.
Is this Green Bay Packers team trending towards championship caliber?
Yeah, look, I still think they're a year away. And I don't think it's a bad thing. Like, I've said this, and I believe I said it in the Summerfest trailer, which had an obviously different tenor than it had the previous year.
Yeah, big time.
But I believe that they could be a better team this year and not as advanced as far in the playoffs as they did last year. I mean, they were a quarter away from a berth in the NFC Championship game in Detroit. And this year, I just went through that scenario of going to the West Coast and facing the NFC West winner. If that's San Francisco and they lose, you're going to be sitting there going, dang it. They ended their season again. And on top of that, you have to feel like this is a better team than last year's team. I mean, anybody that argues differently, they got hot. They got hot in the second half of the year. But let's not forget that hot team got beat by Tommy DeVito. And then Baker Mayfield came into Lambeau Field in December and put up a perfect passer rating. So for no other reason than the fact that their defense can keep them in games and not have a day like that, they are a better team.
Yeah, it's I hate to even think that is a possibility, because obviously as a Packers fan, I am so sick of the San Francisco 49ers being the last game on the schedule.
I get it.
It is a realistic possibility. And by all means, I'm not peaking too much, but I know San Francisco has Buffalo and Detroit coming up the next 2 weeks, which maybe not even debatably are the best two teams in the NFL. So maybe they lose both, and it becomes a long shot for them to win that division, because I like the Packers' chances a lot more if they go to Arizona, Seattle, or
LA.
The Rams. Yeah. So we will see, but it is a fascinating one. Your big takeaway last week coming off of that Chicago game was Jordan Love looks like Jordan Love again. I imagine your takeaway coming off of the San Francisco game is, once again, Jordan Love looks like Jordan Love again, because it really looked that way for me. Couple of bad throws, but no interceptions for the first time this season.
Yeah. As much as we might want to give Christian Watson a hard time for his drop on the deep ball, he deserves credit for playing defensive back and breaking up the interception that should have been to 27. So look, he does. He just looks so much more. To me, the play from the Chicago game that solidified it for me was not the run to the pylon, even though that was a little bit reckless. I understand he is a competitor, but I don't want to have to give the 2010 Aaron Rodgers and Ford Field speech again. But the play to me was when they stood in against 99 on the throw to Watson for the 60-yarder. I mean, 99 is coming right up into his grill and just lights him up. And so for him to stand in and step into that throw with his left leg, which had obviously been the problem, that was what solidified it for me. And he looked the same on Sunday. Like, I just think that, you know, again, if you can limit how much he has to do and he doesn't feel like he necessarily has to play hero ball, and that's where the Josh Jacobs factor comes in. I think he's right where you want him to be. He's not going to put up the same numbers he did in the second half of last season. Those numbers were on par with what Rodgers did during the run the table of 2016. But he's still looking a lot more like the guy that you gave $55 million a year to.
100%. Totally with you on that. A couple more things for you, Jason, before we get you out of here. I had a Packers Dolphins coming up on Thursday night. What's your biggest concern for this Packers team on Thursday specifically? What is the biggest maybe matchup miscue you diagnose ahead of this one?
Yeah, I would say there's two. One would be how much, Josh Jacobs, man, like I like everything about him, which is saying something given how much I liked Aaron Jones, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Because I did go into it not with any sort of bad attitude or, oh, I'm not going to like this guy because he's not Aaron Jones. I'm not a complete hack here, but I was skeptical that he'd be able to step into those shoes. I figured he could be productive. He won the rushing title once, but he has been everything. Like, I still can't get over how he made Marshawn Lloyd ride to practice with him every day while he was on IR to be imparting knowledge to him on every short drive. His locker is next to Edgerrin Cooper, and he's constantly giving Edgerrin Cooper tips. Like, he's everything you wanted him to be, and he's been a damn good football player. My concern is he's like, look, if they have to give me 26 carries again, I'm ready. Well, the mind may be ready, but I don't know if the body is. And if he's able to do that, great. But otherwise, you're going to have to get the other guys involved because 52 carries in a 4-day span is too many for anybody, even for a guy like Josh Jacobs, right? So that's one. And then the other one is, Jair Alexander is still going to be out. I think Carrington Valentine has played pretty well in these two games. But Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are no joke, man. And they can flat out fly. And obviously this Dolphins offense with a guy in Mike McDaniel who is kind of Matt LaFleur-y, right? They've got a lot of history together. He's got a good system. To me, this is going to be a challenge without Jair. And so with Tua healthy again, and with those two weapons, is it going to be enough that it's going to be bitterly cold for a bunch of South Florida dudes to slow down that kind of speed? They better hope so, because otherwise, if it turns into a track meet, I think then they're in trouble.
Totally agree. Yeah, I mean that's the thing they specialize in is track meets. Is the Miami Dolphins. So that's a big worry of mine too. But I think it's going to be points and pumpkin pie on Thursday night. I think that's what we're going to see, right? You're going to be eating your pumpkin pie. You're going to see a lot of points. I think 46.5 is the over under. But I think these are two offenses that are going to punch each other in the mouth, and we might have a good old fashioned slobber knocker, as Jim Ross once famously said.
I'm not responding to you saying slobber knocker.
You know who Jim Ross is?
I know who Bob Ross is. I don't know who Jim Ross is.
Okay, Jim Ross was a WWE/WWF announcer for a very long time. Still alive, just doesn't do it anymore.
I'm glad he's still with us. I've heard that term used many times. To me, a slobber knocker is more a lot of punching, not a lot of running fast down the field, though. I would think this would be more of a shootout than a slobber knocker there, Alex Ross.
You can get Jason on all socials. At Jason J. Wilde. You can find me at Alex _
We're going to end there?
ESPN. Yeah, I think so. Episode 14, Weekly Wilde. Final thoughts, which you will give more of in a longer length on Green Bay game day tomorrow, beginning at 4:00 on ESPN Wisconsin at 6:20 WTMJ. Packers Dolphins at the 7:20 kick at Lambeau Field.
My final thought is going to be non-football related.
Oh boy.
So the halftime show
Yes.
is Lindsey Sterling, who is a brilliant violinist. I'm not here to tell Packers fans what to do, and if you have to go potty at halftime or you need to warm up, totally get it. If you want to get your pumpkin pie, if you're watching at home, okay. But I was not familiar with her work until our oldest, Maddie, chose her floor music for gymnastics. And she
Oh.
took the floor music that Suni Lee used in the Olympics, and it is Lindsey Sterling's music. And it is, I did not realize that I was such a fan of violin music, but she is unbelievable. And I highly recommend, maybe go potty at the 2-minute warning so you can be back in front of your TV for her little halftime concert. Because when I saw that announced, I was legit. And I don't get excited about a lot of stuff at Lambeau
Well, that.
Field.
Oh,
But
at Lambeau. Okay, I was gonna say you get
this,
excited about a lot of stuff,
I do, but not at Lambeau Field. And this one, I was like, ooh, I'm not getting up for the cheese curds at halftime. I'm going to be watching this from my seat in the press box.
okay, Lindsey Sterling. All right, we will be doing this again next Wednesday ahead of Packers Detroit, which is by all means the biggest game remaining on the Packers schedule coming up next Thursday at Ford Field. So looking forward to that conversation. Looking forward to spending some time with you on Thanksgiving at the Tundra Trio ahead of Packers Dolphins and continuing to learn from your wealth of knowledge, Jason Wilde. It's always a treat. It's always a pleasure. It's always like a slice of pumpkin pie. It's been Weekly Wilde. Thanks, Jason.
Nice haircut. I'll see you tomorrow.